Abstract Essay, where ideas take shape, thought find depth, and every conversation explores the art of thinking beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest from striving or starving artist to thriving creative entrepreneur, no other than Mr. Paul Pape.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome on Abstract Essay, Mr. Paul. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Yeah, my name is Paul Pape, and I'm known around the world as Santa for nerds. I spent the last 20 years designing and fabricating custom art pieces for people and businesses all around the world, including companies like Disney, Universal, Nickelodeon, and The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon. And then recently, I've started coaching and consulting other creatives on how to become a professional creative and use the talents that they have honed over the years to actually make a living at it.
Make a living for sure. We need money, money, money indeed. And Mr. Paul Pape, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world.
Very
And
well.
today let's talk about the starving artist. Myth is that why traditional business advice kills creative minds. What does the phrase starving artist mean to you, and why do you believe it's outdated?
Starving artist is a trope that we use here that, especially in the United States, whereas if you're pursuing the arts as a career, then you're just not going to be able to make any money at it. And unfortunately, that statistic holds true. About 95% of people who pursue an arts degree do not pursue the arts further into life because they don't necessarily know how to do it. And so starving artists is also something that comes up a lot when I'm dealing with pricing my work for customers. There's a, I don't know if it's a subconscious belief. It's a lot like clergy, whereas because we can attain something that is considered fun or harder for other people to reach, that we should be paid with just the joy of having that as an ability rather than to earn money. And so when negotiating prices with a lot of customers, they think that the pricing should be lower because what I do, I enjoy. And so I'm trying to uh, extinguish that myth. Everything that we do in life, besides our job, is pretty much generated by creative people. So the music we listen to, the food we eat, the cars we drive, all of that stuff, the places we live, all of that is created by creative people. And yet we still think that they're a second class citizen or they're lesser on the scale, whereas we're actually kind of the soul of humanity.
The soul of humanity, indeed. Why do you think so many creative people still buy into this belief today?
Well, I think a lot of it is because they themselves, creative people, just don't understand the machinations of actual entrepreneurship or being a business. I think that they get confused, that they don't fit in, that they feel that they don't fit into the machinery, and so they to to do what we have to do. I mean, to be honest with you, being creative, you feel like you don't fit in with the regular stream of humanity. We feel like we're a little bit ajar to it. We don't think linearly, we think more abstract. And so that puts us off to the side of the majority of people, especially the linear thinkers. And so they think that, oh, because I'm not with the mainstream, therefore I should be less. And they just don't feel that they should charge their worth, and so they end up becoming the stereotype of a starving artist.
Can you share a personal moment when you realize the starving artist stereotype did not have to be true?
Yeah, I think the very first time that I experienced this, I had a object that I had created had gone viral, and in doing so, it allowed me to quit my traditional job. I was a college professor, and end up pursuing this full time. And what I realized was that the skills that I have to offer, the art that I can produce, is unique to me, and it's from my own specific voice, and it allowed me to produce something that people wanted that they couldn't find anywhere. And so I realized that this actually has, well, it has legs. It's got the ability to go forward. And I wasn't charging a lot, but what I realized is that even at the price point that I was at, there was enough fan base out there that it could support me and my family doing this. And then, through the years, I recognize the patterns that are involved in that, and able to move forward with it to continue doing what I do for the last 20 years.
Let's talk about the business and creativity. How has the traditional business advice been harmful to creative thinkers?
I think a big one. I was actually just talking to someone about this one today, and it's about time management or scheduling your time. A lot of traditional businesses have the 9 to 5 business model, where you go to work, you eat your lunch at noon, and you do a lot of the same thing every hour on the hour. Whereas creative minded people don't think like that. We could be inspired by something at 2 in the morning. We can sometimes find ourselves in like a fugue state of working, where we need 5 to 10 hours of dedicated time on one single project. Or maybe we can get all of our work done, spending 5 minutes sketching 3 to 4 times a day. We just don't fit into that box that they try to create around us. So when you put us into a situation in which we have to be more, linear thinker, more almost like an engineered box, we feel stifled, and that creative spark in us kind of dwindles over time.
Mr. Paul, what's the biggest misconception creatives have me trying to apply business rules in their art?
Mm. I think the biggest misconception is that there's no one out there to that wants what they have to sell. And what I've learned over the years, and in the books that I've written here, is that the reality is we live in one giant world that is interconnected through the internet in a very small way. And so it's not difficult to find your tribe, to find your consumer base. You just have to know how to market specifically to the people who would be interested in the things that you are selling. And that once they get over that, and so unfortunately social media has kind of trained everybody to believe that if you don't get a million likes or a ton of comments on your content, that you're not being successful. But the reality is, for any kind of creative or a business owner, is that you really just need 100 people who really support and purchase from your business to stay successful, to be able to make a living at it. I mean, obviously you can expand beyond that, and most of us, that's our dream. But the reality is 100 people in a world of 8.3 billion isn't that difficult to find.
Definitely. And Mr. Paul, why do you think creatives often feel they have to choose between making money and staying true to their vision?
Well, unfortunately, the world spins on a dime. I mean, we're just uh, everything costs something. And unfortunately, the cost of living is continuing to go up. And even working a part-time job or a minimum wage job to kind of help to supplement it, the amount of time commitment that businesses want these days, or the amount that you have to work to be able to make ends meet, takes up a majority of the time. And so when you finish your 2 jobs or your 8-hour shift, you're exhausted. And because we're forced to live within the structure of another business, work the hours that they want us to work and such, then we're forced to try and make ourselves be creative within specific parameters. And like I mentioned before, that's not really how creative minds work. Inspiration hits when it hits, and you just kind of have to work with it then.
Definitely. And what are the some examples of outdated businesses strategies that suffocate creative growth?
I think the pandemic showed everybody here that
Yes.
that working from home is viable, and that the majority of people who are working are not actually doing anything. The work that they're doing can be consolidated into a lot less hours than what we're actually being forced to sit there and be babysat through. And so I think that's one of the biggest ones, is that people work faster than we believe they do, and that which allows us to have time to do other things. I also think that big misconception is that joy diminishes your pay, which is something that we talked about earlier. In that if you enjoy something, that you shouldn't be paid as well for it. And in that same regard, charging an hourly rate that actually, you know, isn't below the poverty level for what you're creating isn't something to be ashamed of. I know, like myself, I charge almost a lawyer's hourly rate, but I'm efficient at what I do. But it's taken me years and years to get there. And so I feel that understanding that your time is worth something, not just the object that you've created, but the time and effort that you've put into it, um, is actually got value. And lastly, I I work with a lot of creatives who do personalized gifts, or they hand make objects. It's not mass production, and we've gotten into a society because of Apple, or not Apple, Amazon or Walmart, or these conglomerate stores, that you can buy things for super cheap online, that to charge something that is handmade should be on par with that. And that's a falsehood. When you create something that's unique, or something that is handmade, then you should be able to charge a premium for it. And so in the gaming that I do with my business, the part that I teach, this gamified business job that I have on the side, what I teach is that what we create isn't art, but it's more like a magic item, something that is completely unique in the world. And since it holds that position of being something that is either one of a kind or a few of a kind, that it holds a higher value in society, rather than something that you can buy that's mass produced and put into big box stores.
Tell us, your adventure begins here. Game Master Guide to Business and your handbook. Tell us, and your workbook.
So what I did is, like I said, I work with a lot of creatives as a coach and a consultant. And what I found is that a lot of the creatives had a hard time understanding the traditional business approach. If they didn't get an MBA, in which they would consider boring, a lot of the terminology actually kind of either goes over their head, or it just makes them confused and frustrated. And so I was working with some clients, and they didn't understand traditional business structure, but they were avid gamers. And so to help them better understand how to go about their business, I created a campaign based loosely on Dungeons and Dragons, or a tabletop role playing game. And I had them create character sheets, but instead of them being make believe, we actually used their skill sets and their position in the business to create their character. And then when all of them went on to the adventure of finding more customers or expanding their fan base, only the people who could actually solve the problem within the business, that character was the only one to really be able to go out and speak for the team. And what it did is it helped them to understand that, one, it was fun to do it in that style, and two, they all had a very specific role to play. And so I created from that was kind of the seed that got me thinking about gamifying business, which is basically taking business entrepreneurship and turning it into a role-playing game that you play in real life. Instead of hearing things like return on ad spend or the return on investment, we use gaming terminology. And the idea behind it is that almost everybody these days is familiar with games, with playing video games or tabletop games. And if you can get a character from level 1 to level 10, then you can also run a business using this system. And so what we do is we go through the process of creating the game that is going to be your business and your life. And so What I did is we create character sheets based on you and your business, and then we go looking for parties, which are people to help balance out your specific shortcomings within your business to help you become more well-rounded. And then from there, we go on a bunch of campaigns that allows them to find, basically expand the business, find customers, find fan bases, find suppliers, and all of that is done through the terminology that they're very familiar with, which is the gaming world.
The gaming world, and thank you for the creativity that you bring to the world,
Thank you.
Mr. Paul. And as an author, what are your short term and long term goals?
So the short-term goals is to get out there, get this game out there, this process into more hands. I see so many students. Like I said, I was a professor for a while. I've also gone through schools, and I've got kids that are now in schools that are learning the arts because they're following in their father's footsteps. And I see that they're still not being trained in what to do with that education. They're given all the skills, but they don't know how to apply it in real life. And so my short-term goals is to get these books into more school hands and into people who just don't know that it's not that difficult to get into entrepreneurship. Long-term goals for writing is to basically expand this out there and let it become part of a curriculum that we teach alongside standard MBA business schools. In that, because I think it's important that we can reach not just the linear thinkers, but we also reach the creatives and approach business to them in a way that makes a lot more sense. That there's not really just one way to do things, there are multiple aspects. And so that's the long-term goal, is to just kind of get broader awareness about it.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Paul. I'm looking forward for more success.
Thank you.
And what mindset shift are necessary for an artist to thrive financially without sacrificing creativity?
I don't necessarily know if it's a mindset shift, because we're already have the ability to like think outside the box, to kind of bob and weave our way through life, so we can adapt fairly well. I think the biggest thing is just understanding that there is more than one way to approach a problem, and that just because somebody's or a company has done it one specific way, that's not the only way that there is to do it. And so the shift is, I guess, more just of a base understanding that, just because everyone else is doing it one way, you have the ability to mow your own path, and that's part of the joy of being a creative. And so know that you can, that the ability to do this through gaming or through whatever makes more sense to you, that's the shift that you need to do, is just to understand that sometimes the definitions, the words might change a little bit, but really we're all doing the same thing. Who wants to buy the thing that you're selling?
And Mr. Paul, how can artists and creatives redefine success on their own terms?
Well, I think first thing you have to understand is that money is not the goal. We all need the money because we need to be able to live and support ourselves and our families. But don't ever approach creativity with the goal of fortune. It's the same thing of anybody who wants to be a YouTube star or an influencer. If you're only in it for the money, then there's no fulfillment in it. The biggest thing that we should be paying attention to, as opposed to the money, is the fact that something that is completely unique to you, because only you have lived your journey, is desired by other people, and that you're able to put something out into the world that no one else has ever seen or witnessed before, and that in itself is extremely rewarding. But we also have to kind of shift the thinking of everyone else to know that that's just not enough, and that, to be able to continually, be the soul of humanity, we need to be able to recognize that we need to eat and live as well as everyone else.
Yes, indeed. And in your view, what does a sustainable creative career look like in today's world?
I think that honestly, we've become more accepting of the creative spark in people. I think because everything is so uh, homogenous because of its ease of access, we are now, and with the pandemic having happened where we isolated ourselves and really started to think about what was important, I think we've become more accepting of the quirkiness of people, but be it the way that they live or the way that they look or the types of jobs that they have. I mean, I remember growing up in the 70s, to have a lot of tattoos meant that you were living on the outside of society, and now every CEO or business owner is just tattooed up. These things have helped people to help creative minded people or creatives to kind of feel more at ease. I also think the tolerance for people with autism or ADHD and on the spectrum, or gender fluidity, has allowed us to understand that not every creativity comes in many packages, just like people do. And so I think that that helps to make creative people not feel like they stand out so much, but really truly express themselves without the a fear of being ridiculed.
Yes, indeed. And Mr. Paul, what advice would you give creatives who feel guilty about monetizing their art?
um, don't, because if you've ever gone to if you've ever bought a car or bought anything, they don't want to haggle their prices with you. So why should you feel that you should have to haggle your prices as well? When pricing it, I know a lot of the customers, not all of them, but obviously you're going to run into the customers that will try and devalue the work because they want it at a better price. What I've done in the past is I've taught people a mathematic equation that allows them to understand truly what their art is worth. And once that math equation is there, it allows them to realize, no, it's a firm price. And then when the customer comes at them saying, no, we can negotiate on this, they just show them the math and be like, well, this is what it costs to make it, and we wouldn't expect anyone else to take this kind of a discount on anything else we purchase. So why should we? It becomes, I don't know. I think in the long term, I think it's been detrimental for us to have the ease of availability of so much creative stuff at such a low cost, and we've kind of lost the idea that art and the creativity that comes with making things is either a given or just undervalued. So.
Mr. Paul, let's talk about the future of creativity. What role do you see creativity playing in the business world of the future?
I think it's an excellent time to be a creative because AI and our computers are becoming so advanced that a lot of the jobs and tasks of repetition that a lot of people are doing, we won't need to be doing much further in the future. And so it gives humanity more time to be creative. And so um, we're going to see a shift in how we do it. I think there's going to be more and more demand for pieces that are actually made by humans or strictly by humans. And since we can now talk to computers and it can help generate ideas for us, but those ideas have to be based on something that's been created in the past. I think that really truly innovative thinkers are going to be in super high demand. And so nurturing that creative mindset as opposed to thinking inside the box, think as far outside the box as you can, that you're going to have just ample opportunity. If I can recommend anything, it's learn a bit about code, learn a bit about AI and prompting and that sort of thing. As an artist, I started off sculpting with my hands, but over time, I learned to use CNC routers and 3D printers. And so all of these things are just excellent tools. And if you're creative minded, then it's really easy for you to access the ideas, which is what really drives the creativity within all these industries.
Do you believe schools and institutions should teach creatives about entrepreneurship differently?
Absolutely, absolutely. Most creative minded people, they'll learn from example. They'll learn not from studying in a book, but more of a hands-on operation. I mean, I've grown up knowing guys in high school who wouldn't consider themselves creatives, but used to like do lawn care on the side to earn money. And eventually, because they understood that business and how to get those customers, they could expand out of it and they could grow a giant business out of lawn care, when they're in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. That's just as creative as, say, a painter who paints paintings and tries to sell them on the side of the road. The way that we have to approach the selling isn't going to be through a textbook. It should be through hands-on. The guy who mows the lawns understands you got to get flyers into people's hands who have lawns, whereas painters need to understand the people who are going to view their art for the price that they need to pay are only found in specific areas. And so we've got to think about it differently. We can't take the Nike approach of putting our work out to, costing millions and millions of dollars in advertising on the off chance that we'll randomly attract some people. We have to be more precise with our marketing campaigns and how we're approaching it, because again, we're underpaid, so our dollars have to go further. So yeah, we really do need a different type of thinking, which is what these books are ideal for.
And how do you think society benefits when artists are financially empowered instead of struggling?
Well, I think
Hmm.
it's not just in with creative people or artists, but when society as a whole isn't starving, when we're not focused so much on survival, but on just being alive, we have a tendency to really lean into the creative like pursuits. A lot of, when we're working, a lot of people, we get bored. We get bored with repetition, and so our minds will try and create shortcuts, ways for us to make work go faster, so that we have more time to do something that's more challenging or more fun. And that's really where that it's that creativity in all of us that's really trying to get out. And so I think that it's important that we all recognize that having more time in the future will allow all, and being financially free enough to be able to have that time will allow us to excel further as the human species, and just really, succeed further into the future. I'm just, we've seen such a weird stagnation. We innovated so far with technology up until we got to the moon, and then from there we've kind of hit a stagnation. But the computers are getting faster and the technology is getting much more improved, but the creativity from the humans is diminishing down. And so hopefully we can supplement enough, or it would be important to supplement the money so that creatives in the future can actually innovate further, so to help move the human race further along the lines.
Yes, indeed. And Mr. Paul, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love letters in third season, and movie 101 review and music 101 in fourth season, and science 101 and sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Paul, if you could give one piece of advice to every artist stuck in the starving artist mentality, what would it be?
I think I have to say, have faith in your work and your value. You are as valuable as you think you are. You just need to find your people. And again, it's not millions of people. It's just a few hundred, or 100, honestly. And they're out there. So just make sure that you target your work to those specific places to find those people.
Find those people, well, and for sure they will create more and more. something to the world. So, Mr. Paul, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Can you
Thank
please invite our listeners to support all your books, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So, where do people buy your book now, mister? Or
Uh,
books?
they can buy it directly through my website at gamifybusiness.com. That's where all of them are available right now. I'm trying to get them into Amazon, just haven't done it yet.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Paul Pape because if you support him, for sure more and more empowering books like this to come. So, Mr. Paul, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.